Recording start. Okay. Hi everyone. This is Let's Discuss the Paper Soon After Reading It. And we selected and studied the paper 2 hours ago. Then from now on, we are going to discuss the paper. And today we have 2 participants. Ryoichi, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, I'm Ryoichi Watanabe at Kyoto University, Japan, and I'm a PhD student.
Okay, thank you, Ryoichi. And me, I'm Yota Kawashima. I'm a research assistant at ATR in Japan and Monash University in Australia. And okay, and today we are going to discuss a paper titled P300 correlate with tDCS response in minimally conscious state patients, published in 2022 from Neuroscience Letters. The authors are Ye Tan, Wei-Guan Chen, Tian Zhang, and Zhao Du, Rui Li, Ren Chao Hua, and Wei-Quan Song. And I'm going to give you a quick summary of this paper first, and after that we are going to start discussions. This paper, first of all, focus on the minimally conscious states. And the brain injury sometimes leads to severe, disorder of consciousness, such as vegetative states and coma, and one of them is minimally conscious states. And here, the author focused on minimally conscious states. And just briefly, in the patient in minimally conscious states can be wakeful, but still, and also they have some amount of awareness, but it's still limited. And so this means that the patient sometimes can communicate or respond to command by the assessors, but what they can do is still limited. So in order to treat these patient with minimally conscious states, there are many possibilities, and one possibility or one treatment is transcranial direct current, and that is tDCS. And this is basically the application of current, the electrical current to the brain, and which can increase neural excitability. But however, this tDCS application does not work for everyone. And it remains unclear what the difference between the tDCS responders and non-responders. Here, when I say responders, it means that the tDCS works for that patient. And there are several biomarkers proposed to distinguish these two tDCS responders and non-responders. But here, the authors wanted to find something easily accessible for clinical settings, because the other proposed biomarker requires some kind of complicated technique or algorithm. So they wanted to find something easily accessible biomarkers. And specifically in this paper, the authors focused on P300 component, which is then an ELP component, event-related component, which is known to reflect or capture higher cognitive processing. So in the case of minimally conscious states, a patient may be capturing these higher cognitive processing can be a good biomarker to detect whether the patient can be recovered from minimally conscious states by the application of tDCS. And in fact, previously, this P300 is used in clinical settings. So in this paper, they try to compare the presence of P300 component in auditory task between the tDCS responders and non-responders. And specifically, they did two different audible tasks. Both of them are auditory tasks. And in the audible task, we need standard stimuli. And here, for both tasks, they use the subject or patient name spoken by familiar voice or family member voice, and that was used as an standard stimuli. And in one task or in one experiment setup, as a deviant stimuli, they use 1,000 Hertz tone, and another experiment, the authors used the reversed order of the family or the standard stimuli, so that they reverse the subject name and use that as an deviant stimuli. And the purpose of the first task is to see whether the participant can process or can kind of detect or contrast the speech or their own name versus noise, because 1,100 tone is just a noise. And that's the one thing. And for the second task, the purpose is to contrast the meaningful word versus meaningless word, because here the standard stimuli is the subject own name, so it's meaningful. However, as a deviant stimuli, the authors use the reversed ordered subject name, meaning that the deviant stimuli is meaningless. And finally, what they found is that in the first task, they did not see any differences in terms of the presence of P300 component. However, in the second task, where they use the reversed order subject name as a deviant, so where compare the meaningful word versus meaningless word, they found the differences between the tDCS responders versus non-responders in terms of the presence of P300 component. So based on this findings, the authors conclude that this P300 component in the second paradigm or the second experiment can be a good biomarker to detect or to see whether the tDCS works or not for each participant. As I explained, in the second task, it kind of required the higher semantic processing, not just a detection between the noise versus word. I mean, as investigated in the first task, the second task was investigating the semantic meaning. So they conclude that maybe this semantic processing is something important. And that's my conclusion. And Ryoichi, if you want to add anything, please go ahead.
Okay, I agree with your summary.
Okay, so if you don't have anything to add, shall we start discussion?
So I'd like to confirm my understanding.
Okay.
For this study. So I'm wondering to measure the scores, right? The CRSR score. So firstly, in the table 1, the CRS score. So each patient is presented. This score was measured before this study, like for diagnosis. And then in this study also, they also twice measure the participants' CRSR score before and after of the tDCS intermediation. And then the then patients who have the patients who responded to tDCS before or after by measured by the CRSR, they were categorized into the responder. And if patients who didn't respond to the tDCS, not before and after of the TDS intermediation, they were categorized into non-responder, right?
So, okay, first of all, I did not explain what the tDCS, responder and the score is to, decide whether the participant or the patient is tDCS responder or not. So I will just quickly explain what does it mean. So first, in order to, determine the degree of the, this minimally conscious states, and there is some, proposed scales, and here they used one of them. And then I think that includes a set of questionnaire questions or, behavioral task, so that, the medical doctor can decide whether that participant is, in the minimally state, a minimally conscious states or not, or can be used for other, disorder of consciousness, such as, vegetative states or coma. And then before application of, tDCS, they first, assess participant based on this score. And then they can get some, score for each participant. And then after application of tDCS, the authors again assess the participant based on the score. And if the authors find some improvement of this score for one participant, then the author decided, okay, this tDCS application works for this participant. So this participant is classified as a tDCS responder. But if tDCS does not improve in terms of score for another participant, then the participant is categorized as a non-responder. So that's my understanding, and I think my explanation clear up your questions. Is
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I see. So the responder means, right? So briefly, the intermediate effect is there, right? Right.
So responder means that the application of stimulation, electrical stimulation works.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's what responder means.
Okay, so yeah, I see. I understand.
Okay, good. Any other questions or comments?
Or yeah, And also the offset or in the context of the intermediation by tDCS. So DLPFC, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, is the focused point or focused locations, right? And I'm little wondering why this location is effective, because I think in this introduction, they also explain that the DLPFC is more related to the thalamus or the other cortical area. So thalamus cortical network and the cortical network it may be activated by stimulating DLPFC. Is it my understanding is right?
Okay, so yes, as you mentioned, or I did not, or explain which location the authors apply the stimuli to, and the location is this dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And my understanding is the reason is that it's already known that the region or the application of stimuli or the stimulation to that region works to treat the disorder of consciousness, minimally conscious states. And also, as you mentioned in the introduction, they explain the possible reason why this the application to this region works may be related to its connection to other areas. Specifically, it has connection to subcortical network, specifically with thalamus and stratum. That can be a reason why this location is a good target. Yeah, but I did not explain where the author apply the stimulus or the stimulation, and also the reason why they did. But I am not sure, because the minimum, they mentioned that application of stimulation to DLPFC works only for minimally conscious states patient, but did not work for vegetative states and coma wakefulness states, or less effective for these patients. But if we come back to the definition of these, states, minimally conscious states, patient have wakeful states, so can sleep and can wake up and open eye and do some command task. But vegetative states, it seems like they have only wakeful versus not wakeful, like a sleep stage kind of cycle. And coma states seems a bit difficult to detect whether they have that kind of cycle or not. And my understanding is that then I don't know, the thalamus, stratum, these subcortical area is more related to the wakefulness. Not the higher cognitive, function stuff. In that sense, I don't know why, the application of this tDCS to, DLPFC works for minimally conscious states patients.
I see. And also, I think that according to limitation of the tDCS, this is like the I think the affiliation is this is like the this is like the attached one. So I think from the tDCS, the more surface brain activation is measured, but not the subcortical area, right?
So, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
Right. I think so like the F neurons or something. So there are we don't use the tDCS to measure or steam in the core, or how to say, core of the brain. So they use the DLPFC or motor area or something, the prefrontal area, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, stimulate the deep region of brain, you need to, you need some, invasive, stimulation.
Yeah.
So you need to, use, I don't know, needle, then.
Yeah, or wired or something. Yeah.
And that's not something what the author wanted to do, because I think the author again want some easily accessible biomarker. And if you do invasive stimulation, it's not that, consistent with their purpose.
I see. And so, and for me, this result is not a surprise, because so P300 ERP is related to the like the front parietal network activity, and according to global neural workspace theory, P300 is the sign of the access consciousness, or achieving the prefrontal area, the information. So in this study, the authors stimulate the DLPFC or prefrontal cortex. So after this, the responder patient P300 is more activated, because DLPFC is, how to say, stimulated.
Okay, so I kind of have a different perspective from yours, because my understanding is that I think in this, let's discuss journal club. I think it was the first episode we read the paper published this year or last year about the perceptual awareness negativity. That paper, claimed that, the late component of ELP is more to do with task, not the awareness itself, right? And in this, experiment, the participants were not required to make any response, so they just passively listen to the, stimuli, the auditory stimuli. So in that sense, there are no, report related, or there should be no, report related, a component in, ELP. But still, this paper suggests that, okay, this P300 component is a good biomarker to detect the, tDCS responders versus tDCS, non-responders. So in that sense, I am not sure given what's going on here. And I checked the, duration or the definition of this P300, because, even though it says the P300, it does not mean that, they focus only on the time point at 300 milliseconds after the stimulus onset. I mean, basically, we have some kind of time, windows to define this, right? Then found out that the author used the time window from 280 to, I think, 500 or something. And then they find the largest amplitude within the time window.
I see.
And in addition, if I understand correctly, maybe I'm wrong, but they, after that, compare the amplitude between the deviant stimuli and standard stimuli. So meaning that in the first task, the amplitude evoked by 1000 hertz, tone, that's a deviant stimuli. And then the standard stimuli is, the subject name spoken by the family member. Then compare the amplitude and determine if the amplitude evoked by deviant, 1000 hertz tone is greater than the standard stimuli, or the amplitude evoked by the standard stimuli. Then they define that as a presence of P300. And I am not sure whether, that kind of explain my question regarding the, P300 component, which is supposed to be related to, report related or task related processes, but still in this paper, they found that P300 as a biomarker for this experiment, which does not require any, task responses. What do you think? Or
I see, but and one normally audible in this study also used the audible paradigm, like so the mismatch are detected or something, right?
Yeah.
In this task, it's normally in this task normally the P300 is happened or activated. So, but as you said, I agree with your comment that P300 is normally not related to the consciousness. Maybe it's just a report or post consciousness activity, like action or decision making or something. Yeah, I totally agree. But for the audible paradigm, P300 is also happen robustly. So when the observer when the observer detect the mismatch or the different, P300 is happened.
Okay. Okay, so to be honest, I'm not familiar with the literature of audible paradigm, but I guess in the standard audible paradigm, participants are asked to report or make response when they notice the difference, right? So
yeah, but also there's another the other response. Sorry, I don't know totally this reference, but I think the no response task is also happen also there, I think. But sorry, I'm not sure.
okay, yeah, I'm sure that then, I don't know, but we can easily check this by report audible paradigm task. So which is being done here, like a passive listening and does not require any report. But I was not sure about that, so I tried to look for another paper talking about P300 as a biomarker for, you know, this disorder of consciousness. And then I found one paper, but I didn't have time to, you know, go through the paper. So yeah, I'm still not sure, you know, what's happening here about, you know, this P300. But, you know, that's my, you know, comments.
I see. So I think the in this context, the conscious means access consciousness. So, and this related the P300. So for the diagnosis, the patient, so access or not is, I think, more important than our context, our study context, I think. So can access or can input information, and patient can access, and patient can active or response by the this information. The doctor can diagnose the patient. So I think the P300 and the access consciousness and the responsibility is important in this context.
I don't know. Yeah, because you know, I mean, it's kind of philosophical.
I see.
Point, but you know, well, in the, you know, practical, you know, experimental situation, I kind of interpret the access as a report.
Yeah, report.
You know, related activities.
I see. So yeah, and the last time we did the, how to say, the drug study, like the protocol intermediate study. So if the patient is awake, please grip the hand, and then the patient was asked the image, the grip the hand, or the action the ball, action the grip the ball, and protocol is entered. The patient's activation is low and unconscious. They couldn't imagine and couldn't action. And after of the unconscious and awake state, the patient can imagine and active. So imagine is also like the active consciousness, right? So please think something, or please imagine something like the over study, or playing the tennis, or navigation in the house. They are like active consciousness, but not reported. Sorry, just
active consciousness. Not access, right? Active.
Sorry, active access. Sorry.
Access consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wait. So in that sense, let's say again, coming back to the, you know, first episode paper, perceptual awareness negativity paper. So in these, you know, experiment, there should be no access consciousness then, because they, you know, claim that in some, you know, experimental paradigm, they did not observe the P300 component, but still participants were conscious of the target stimuli. So does it mean that, you know, they do not have access consciousness to that target?
I see. But this this method is like the non-report paradigm, right? So it's not to need to access or contain the information, all right? I think the access consciousness is like for if to use for something or to contain or something in the working memory, or so intention is sorry, I'm confused, but so intentionality or motivation is different, right? So task,
well,
yeah, I see. Task demanded is I agree, and also for task response, the participant need to contain the response, own response next to action, or to imagine something information to response. But for the non-report paradigm, if the participant was asked when the image is happened, you should contain the image and contain image, or not reporting, but you should judge the stimuli, but not report. In this situation, also P300 is happen or not. I don't know, but if this situation, participant can answer but not answer reportedly, this situation is also P300. It's nothing. It's nothing mean like the P300 is not related. Sorry, action. So sorry, P300 is related to the action, not only action but also the access consciousness.
I still, don't understand, or
Sorry. Yeah.
yet. I mean, it's not because, yeah, again, like this task, participants were not asked anything, just listening to the thing, right?
I see.
So we are not sure whether they have an intention to distinguish these two,
yes,
regardless of report requirement. I mean, in the Owen paper, the tennis imagination paper, well, we can say that the participants were asked to imagine, so they have some kind of intentions. Then your access consciousness explanation might work. But in this experiment, we are not sure whether participants have an intention to detect the difference, right?
Yeah, right.
So this is just a passive listening. So we are not sure whether they are listening to the stimuli or not.
Yes.
In the first place.
Okay, so yeah, I see. So in this study, the access consciousness is happen or not. We can't know, right? Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Like the brain activation or front palate network is activated what we can discuss or what we can know. I see. And yeah, and I think P300 is at least two meaning or two measurement of the cognitive process. One is like the access consciousness or more judgment, and more the another one is like the mismatch pattern. So in this study, the mismatch pattern activated the P300, right? But which cannot say this pattern is like the consciousness is, well, consciousness or unconsciousness, but sorry, I confused what I said. Sorry.
Yeah, but in the figure 1, they show the ELP from standard stimuli and deviant stimuli. Then I counted the y-axis. Then I mean I checked the y-axis, the ticks of a y-axis, and then seems like some channels or conditions, we still see some negativity around 100, from 100 to 200. So I mean I understand that the author wanted to focus only on P300, but it would be great if they can check whether we can or whether we have another possible biomarker, such as perceptual awareness negativity. For example.
I see.
Yeah.
But I think the perceptual awareness negativity is activated in the hospital area. So I saw in this graph, frontal and the center and the parental, yeah. So not hospital. So the perceptual awareness negativity ERP is more small in this figure. So if we measure the for example OZ or some O1, O2, O3, O4 for the hospital area, this is like for visual information. So for example, the parietal area located more auditory information processing area. Primary auditory area, I think the perceptual awareness negativity is happen or not, we can discuss.
I remember that in the perceptual awareness negativity review paper, they or the reason why I used that term perceptual awareness negativity is that they wanted to talk not only the visual awareness, consciousness, but also the auditory or consciousness or tactile consciousness, something like that. So in that sense, yeah, and I vaguely remember that for different modality have different time kind of windows. If I remember correctly, for the visual awareness, the time window is roughly like a 100 millisecond to 200 millisecond or something. But auditory, for audition, the time window slightly shifted toward the toward the later, shifted like the 200 millisecond, from 200 millisecond to I don't know 300 millisecond or something like that. But I don't remember exactly, so I might be wrong, but anyway, my comment was that I don't know how I can interpret this P300 evidence in terms of or in relation to the perceptual awareness negativity stuff and the relation to no report paradigm. But that's I think what I thought. But that's my comment for this paper.
I see.
Yeah, do you have any comments or question? I think we've already talked roughly like a 40 minutes. So if you,
I see.
yeah, do you have any comments?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, then shall we stop now? Okay, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye.